বাংলাদেশের রপ্তানি মানচিত্রের বড় অংশ দখল করে আছে ইউরোপীয় ইউনিয়ন। তৈরি পোশাক আর টেক্সটাইল তো বটেই, চামড়া, হোম ডেকোর আর খাবার মিলিয়ে $20 বিলিয়ন বেশি পণ্য যাচ্ছে 27 দেশের এই অঞ্চলে। এর পেছনে বড় শক্তি শুল্কমুক্ত বাণিজ্যের সুযোগ। তবে বাংলাদেশ এলডিসি তালিকা থেকে বেরিয়ে উন্নয়নশীল হয়ে গেলেই এই সুবিধা আর মিলবে না। জটিলতা আছে জিএসপি প্লাস, শ্রম অধিকার, লজিস্টিক্স আর পরিবেশ ইস্যুতেও। তাহলে ইউরোপীয় ইউনিয়নের সাথে বাংলাদেশের বাণিজ্যের ভবিষ্যৎ কি তা জানতেই এবারের দ্য বিজনেস আপনাদের সাথে আছি আমি তৌহিদ হোসেন। দর্শক, এই বিষয়ে কথা বলতে আমরা আমন্ত্রণ জানিয়েছি ইউরোপিয়ান ইউনিয়ন চেম্বার অফ কমার্স ইন বাংলাদেশ ইউরোচ্যামের চেয়ারপারসন নুরিয়া লোপেজকে। আসুন তাকে স্টুডিওতে স্বাগত জানাই। Nuria Lopez, thank you for coming to Jamuna Television, and this is the first time we are having such discussions, and you have been in the presence of Bangladesh for a very long time. You're working in Bangladesh and everything. But if I want to ask you the questions of how the evolution of Bangladesh and EU trade relation has evolved in last 3 or 4 decades, I would be asking you the same. Are we in an equilibrium, or are we in a strategic adjustment, or how is this turning up? How is this trade relation is moving forward?
Well, obviously, the trade relation that we have in the past has to change. We are right now, we have to keep more equilibrium. We have a big deficit. Bangladesh is moving into graduating, so we have to address this big deficit we are having. We have specifically around 18 billion. And we are now also looking into how you are giving concessions to other countries that have much less deficit, which means that you are in a way discriminating the European European partners or private sector with this real situation. We have to move forward. We have to find the right way.
The LDC graduation that we are talking about, there's a debate about it. So we don't want to go into that debate. But the idea is that how are you going to see the future of trade of EU and Bangladesh if we graduate from the LDCs? Considering the fact now we are talking about GSP plus, and some of the investors also talking about, and the policymakers are also talking about having a separate FTA with the European Union. But do you think are we on the right direction? And if we go for the LDC graduation, do you think we are going to survive?
Okay, I was a strong defender of extending the LDC graduation. We are not ready. I told that to the United Nations team that was here in Bangladesh. And I believe strongly on that. But I also believe that we have to do the reforms. So not just don't graduate and wait another 5 or 10 years and then again coming with a discussion. So I was supporting the extension of the graduation to conclude the reforms that we have to do. But at the same time, we need to understand that Bangladesh, one of the reasons why we need the extension on the graduation is because we need to do what we haven't done before, which is start negotiating the post-graduation situation. Especially, I'm talking about the European Union, we need to start discussing immediately an FTA. Because GSP Plus is what people is talking about, but our situation, the way that we have only one sector right now in Bangladesh, a strong sector, which is the RMG. Because of that, we will be having an enormous difficulty to match the requirements of the GSP Plus. So if we think that LDC graduation is not in our hands, it's in the hands of whoever has to take the decision, which is not Bangladesh. We can only request for it. And that we are not in a very good shape with the GSP Plus, really we need to understand that FTA is what we have to do. So in my agenda right now is to advocate in Brussels that it will be interesting for us to put Bangladesh in the radar of Europe, to understand that it will be good to discuss an FTA, because we have to advocate for that. We need to understand that right now Europe is not thinking that an FTA with Bangladesh is a primary interest of European Union, but for us it's a primary interest. So we have to start thinking about it.
I have 2 questions. One is, do you think we are, working enough to go for another 3 years, and actually we will be able to take all the preparations before the actual LDC graduations? One. Secondly, if we're talking about the FTA, it took India 17 years to write that to go for that particular deal. Do you think Bangladesh has enough time?
Okay, FTA is a lengthy process. It's not something that you can do in 1, 2, or 3 years. But in my opinion, I am not a diplomat. I am private sector. But I mean, I go to Brussels as part of the EBOs and discussing there about the country I represent, and I represent Bangladesh, and I am very proud about that. But we have to understand that if we start the FTA discussions now, maybe by the time that we graduate, if we don't have the extension in 3 years' time, then we will have at least a ground to discuss with the European Union that, look, give us some time, give us some support until we conclude the FTA. But the FTA has to be started now. 18 years took India, yeah, but it's also true that in the last 2 years it went faster. Things are also changing. Geopolitical situation is also changing. So the agreements also can be moved forward, or it will be lengthy or not lengthy according to the interests of both parts as well.
What kind of preparations are we talking about if you consider Bangladesh right now?
To FTA, look, the first one for me, and you need to understand that right now we don't have a strong transaction system. That means we are just depending on import duties, basically, because we don't have a strong and direct taxation system that we have to create in a modern way. So if we are depending on the import duties and we have to start the FTAs, we need to start to be less dependable on these import duties and go more into that way. So this is number one. There will be other things. We have our standards, the standards of the country for FTA, in good governance, transparency, many things are there. But it's starting now. Then we'll create a big list and everybody needs to understand what everybody has to do. It's a full comprehensive job of the business community, the government and everybody. Yeah, but there are many things.
And if you talk about the EU-India deal that happened a few months ago, a very few days ago, everyone is saying that the domination of Indian products will be, much higher in the European Union than any other country in the world. So, do you think Bangladesh will actually be affected by this, considering the fact India will definitely rise on that particular deal, and they are going to, have a particular influence in the market?
Okay, I was present in the signature of the agreement when the EU, and I was looking at it, and it was good for Europe. I mean, von der Leyen says that this is the mother of all the deals, which is true. It's an important deal, but for us it's not good. For us it's not good for one reason. Right now, if you are looking the 16 status right now, we have an advance on India of 12% because of the GSP for the EBA. Which means in 1st of January 2027, this is gone. So we'll be losing 12% competitiveness with India on January 2027. If we graduate and we have, at the end of this year, and we have the 3 years extra time that the European Union has granted us, in 2029, we'll have to move into the GSP Plus, which I already told you it's going to be very difficult for us to meet those requirements. So probably we will be then going into paying 12%.
Yes.
So the difference could be, in less than 3 years, 24% against Bangladesh, if you compare it right now. And then you also need to add more things. India has cotton, which is one of the main products that we also sell in the RMG. India has much more effective energy supply system. It's cheaper. Their logistics are also much better than us. So yes, we are going to have a lot of problems if we do not react and start ourselves considering what's going to happen after the graduation time.
How are you going to define the the business environment here in Bangladesh, as you have been working in Bangladesh for a very long time? Especially we have issues with the customs, the policies, the logistics, the infrastructures, and everything. If I ask you that, what are the top 3 reforms that you are going to have, or you're going to suggest for Bangladesh? What should be those, and how are you doing right now?
So if we have to put everything together, what I told you before, taxation system has to be reinvented or reshaped, going to more direct systems, which means also we need to modernize customs, we modernize MBR, we need to modernize everything. That is, digitalization is a must. So if we have digitalization, the question is, in Bangladesh, we like to do things, but partially. We already have a digitalization going on in customs, but still you are forced to go with the papers after that. So why do you want digitalization for? We need to reduce the human environment, human interaction in all these things that we have to do. So then we have very recently discussed about logistics, and I was reading in the newspapers. We are selling the country. We are not selling the country. We're just addressing a big problem that we have. We have seen that for many years we have been suffering of a very inefficient logistics sector, a very inefficient port, which is ranking right now in less, in the last positions, 130 something. When you are seeing our competitors like Vietnam, for instance, that they are moving in 4 or 5 in the ranking. Those ports that Vietnam Vietnam and many of the most efficient ports in the world are right now run by these companies that they are coming to Bangladesh. So what you are doing, you are not selling the country. You are addressing a problem that is a big burden for us, the entrepreneurs, the companies that they are working in here, because we have to digest the lack of competitiveness and efficiency of a sector that is a burden for us. So we really need to go into that. Logistics is a part of the development of Bangladesh. If we don't have a dynamic logistic, that's going to be a barrier for us to go ahead. If you diversify the economy, which is another must, you will be able to export more. So how can you do that if our port is totally congested? We have a beautiful airport which is still not used because we don't know who is going to be handling. We need to be forgetting about self-interest, and we have to put the interest of the country as a priority, not just of a small group interest.
Do you think the policies are changing too much here in Bangladesh every time?
We need to be consistent. We need to be also credible. We need people to understand that the changes we do are in the good direction. We need to get the trust. You need to analyze why we don't have foreign direct investment in Bangladesh. Why? Everybody is looking for opportunities everywhere. Vietnam is booming. Other countries are booming. Why Bangladesh cannot have? So we need to analyze that internally and say and understand why we cannot. And there are many things that I can tell you. How such a lengthy process to be able to make a business in here. So we need to understand one thing. Investors can choose where to go. Mm-hmm. We need to brand the country to ask them to come here. We need to talk to them about the potential of the country, that Bangladesh can become easily a very strong manufacturing hub. I do have this belief. We have a lot of manpower, very young. We have a very dynamic entrepreneurship. All the people in Bangladesh, they really like to have business, and they take the risk as well. That sometimes is not happening abroad. But we need to understand what we want. We need to understand. We need to have a vision. I want to know what is the vision of this new government, for instance. We want to have a very modern country, dynamic. We are going to be supporting easily the investors when they come in here. I can give you one example, and we are missing things anyhow. But I have just made a new project in agro-processing. This project took me took me and my partners more than 2.5 years, 2.5 years or something like that. My other foreign partner made a project in Laos in less than 7 months. In here it's lengthy. To acquire lands is much more, it's really difficult. It's also insecure. You don't even know if the land you are buying is, it's really a tremendous burden. You go to the government agencies and you don't even know how long it's going to take for you to get licenses. I need to have a bond license. How long is it going to take? We need to have a commitment. I need these papers, I need these documents, I need this and that, make it clear, and put a time framework from the part of the government. If I request any kind of a license today, there has to be a commitment that within this time, 1 week, 5 days, 10 days, I will get my answer. And if I don't get my answer, automatically my license is approved provisionally until the final approval is coming, but I don't have to be waiting for weeks and months to have something. For me, this is one of the important things, that if I have to implement a strong change, it's a commitment from the authorities to grant the permissions, the licenses, whatever it is, in a period of time.
Definitely. We're going to have a break now, and after the break, we will be discussing more about the Airbus versus Boeing situation that happened earlier, just before this government. দর্শক, আমরা দি বিজনেসের আয়োজন দেখছি। ইউরোচামের চেয়ারপারসনের সাথে খুব দ্রুত আমরা আলোচনায় ফিরবো। আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। দর্শক আবার স্বাগত, আপনারা দেখছেন দ্য বিজনেস। আমাদের সাথে স্টুডিওতে আছেন ইউরোপিয়ান ইউনিয়ন চেম্বার অফ কমার্স ইন বাংলাদেশ চেয়ারপারসন 𝗖𝗲𝗃𝗂𝗃𝗁। As I was talking about that, I'll be asking you the questions about what happened actually with the deal with the Airbus and with the last government, and why Boeing suddenly came in front of the picture. What actually happened? I know you were a part of that discussion as well.
Okay, I have been recommending many times. When I hear about it, I was recommending. I was very much upset. Let's put the first thing, because that was not a decision taken on a commercial basis. Which then maybe I will then have say many things, but that was a political reason behind that. That was Bangladesh got worried about the requirements from the United States about to reduce the deficit, and they jump into going there quickly and offer something without considering that European Union is the major supporter of Bangladesh, that we have been always giving the strong support to Bangladesh in everywhere, and that our deficit is 3 times bigger than the United States. So when we went there, and considering that what you have offered, if you were just offering things that they were not against the European private sector, we wouldn't have said anything. But when you put Boeing in the basket, automatically you are discriminating one of the flagship companies of Europe, which is Airbus. And then that will raise lack of reciprocity in the treatments, in our trade relations. I mean, we're giving you everything, and you are just imposing, giving to other people benefits that will be discriminating our private sector. So for me, that was a really shocking decision, which I believe that we have to amend in a way, because we need to advocate for an FTA. So do you think that when I go to Brussels to advocate for an FTA, this thing will not come out? Are we treated properly by Bangladesh? What can I say? Even I love Bangladesh. We have been discussing about it, and I want to do advocating for Bangladesh very strongly. But the Airbus decision, for me, it was not very accurate. And I do believe that what we have to do in the future is we should not be closing the door to Airbus. First, because I don't believe that this is a very rational decision. You cannot be having a monopoly of only one aircraft. No other aviation company in the world has only one. They diversify. It's against interest to have only a monopoly inside. So I think that we should have to reconsider that Airbus has to have some role to make in Bangladesh, and we need to open that part. That is, for me, very important. And I also believe that we have to start considering that we have to reduce the trade deficit with Europe. We have 18 billion. Now, as a goodwill, why we don't start now, even before we start discussing FTAs and such, why don't we try to put products like olive oil, like some chemicals, and some, like the cars, the European cars, which are very effective. They are environmentally friendly, even if they are diesel, but they have a lot of standards. They are very safe, and not a lot of people will be able to buy those cars. So it's not going to be really affecting you a lot. But let's offer something just to say, look, we appreciate what the European Union has been doing, and we are willing to start in a humble way to put things that can also benefit the European private sector, because they are willing to have also access to Bangladesh market, and it's very difficult. We have a lot of barriers.
As you're talking about starting the discussion about FTA soon with the European Union, we have to create some environment for the EU investors as well. But if I consider the non-tariff barriers that you have been asking about for a very long time, what are those? And right now, if I ask you that what kind of barriers you want to remove first, what those should be, and how are the EU investors actually thinking about Bangladesh in investing further in the future, whether we are LDC graduate or not?
Okay. When we're talking about non-tariff barriers, we have to consider what is the non-tariff barriers for goods to come to Bangladesh, which is something related to customs procedures, inspections, high tariffs, not only import duties, because you have supplementary duties and many things. It's a very lengthy process. It's quite complicated. It's not really friendly. very difficult. So this is one thing that we have to address. This comes also together with customs modernization and a lot of things. But we also have another kind of problem, which is if we want to bring European companies in Bangladesh, those companies need to have good governance, because those companies, they have to follow up the rules. They do follow up standards. So if you bring one company in here that they have to follow the standards, and the companies in the same sector, they are not forced to have the same standards that they are required by the law, but you know, they are not complying with, it is very difficult to compete in here. So there are many things that we have to sit together, and transparency is a requirement. And basically, I will just say that the good governance and the standards that we have to comply with have to be addressed, and we have to put it in there. But the level playing field is one of the things that everybody is asking for. And besides that, we also have to have about the predictability. We need to also, I will explain you one thing, for instance. Like we have been fighting for a very long time to clarify what is the situation of the freight forwarding companies that came to Bangladesh before 2015. You made a law in 2015, and the status of these companies just became in a limbo. They didn't know because you put some restrictions about the shareholder structure. They were not complying with that, the new law, but they came here with the previous law. If you don't clarify this very clear, how do you expect me to go to Europe and tell, look, come to Bangladesh, we're going to have a strong manufacturing hub in there, and you will have all kinds of guarantees? No, you don't. If the law changes, we don't know what's going to happen. The laws in other countries, they always change towards the future. They never affect whatever you do in the past. So this is a small issue that should be clarified very quickly and very fast. It has taken more than 7 years for these companies to understand. It still is not clarified what this is. The new law is coming, and I don't know what is in the last 2 months. But up till now, for many years, these companies have been struggling. This kind of message you cannot send to the foreign investors.
Yes. There's another debate, and it's actually a critic's idea that as we have evolved enough after the Rana Plaza incident or the 𝗖𝗲𝗃 incident, but still there's a debate that whether the Bangladeshi worker safety or the worker rights or the compliance issues are much more, are close to the standard of GSP Plus in the European Union. So if it is not, I want you to evaluate that particular segment as well, one. Secondly, if we want to reconcile and if we want to get the greater part of the competitiveness, how are you going to suggest that what should Bangladesh do right now to ensure 100% compliance in the factories, in all the factories, not in the R&D only?
Well, one of the things that I have to say, talking about, for instance, labor rights and such, is one of the things we have to do is we need to admit that we have to be there. We need to make it. We are a modern country. We cannot just be hiding behind the LDC status for a long time. So you need to understand that you have to address those issues. One of the problems we have is, yes, we need to understand that we need capacity building as well. We cannot pretend that Bangladesh is like Europe. Right now it's not. So but we have to reach there. So the first thing is to recognize our efforts, that we want to be there, and maybe we need to have a time frame to go there. But it has to be a serious message. Yes, we are trying to reach there, but look, understand that there are peculiarities, because we need to build up capacity. Education is there. One of the things that I always say is democracy and all the rights that you want to have comes also with obligations. You don't have rights without obligations, and otherwise you misuse all these things. Like I've seen in here, people want to come on the street, fine. There is a right for everybody to demonstrate that, but you have to keep a process. You have to inform the people. You cannot just paralyze the country inside. But coming to the labor rights and the safety reforms, we have done a lot. We are also having a very bad image outside, which is also not right, because accidents happen everywhere. But when an accident happens in Bangladesh, booms everywhere, and Bangladesh is a disaster. But the same accident happens in another place. It was an accident. It's not fair. But it's also say that we have an enormous job to do, not only on the labor rights, also we have to do in compliance. in the due diligence. I mean, we have the CSD diligence that Europe is asking for the traceability of the products and everything. We need to be there. We cannot hide. We cannot just put excuses and say no. We have to address the issue. What are the problems we have? How can we solve them? And we have to explain. When you are transparent in your interest and you say, look, I know that I have to be here, but look, I have this problem, this problem, this problem. Altogether, we need to solve it. We cannot pretend that we are going to be like acting and having the same regulations and Europe and that we can comply with them. So there is a kind of we have to show interest from Bangladesh. Always, people from outside says they always have excuses, which is the excuses can have a ground. But if you just make sure that there is a commitment to reach the goals, probably they will be accepting it in a much better way.
The European Union is also urging for the transparency on environmental compliance or the social compliance for a very long time, and that's how the idea of the digital product passport has come.
Exactly.
So why the European investors or the companies are suddenly asking for it, and how are Bangladesh doing in that particular context?
Okay, we need to understand that we have to comply with the EU due diligence. That's what we call. And then this is not an option anymore. So that is one thing that we have to understand. No option is a must.
Okay.
Coming to that, we must also understand that we have to go also to beyond that cheap production things. We need to understand we have to embrace the digital traceability as well. We cannot prove sustainability through just that is coming. We need to have data to prove those things. So we have to create that kind of ecosystem. So otherwise, what we will be facing is that we will be out of this supply chain. This is a serious matter. We need to work very strongly. The labor laws and all these things, we have to put this package. We need to modernize Bangladesh. So if we want to be modern, we have to understand that there are we'll have some benefits, but we also have some obligations to fulfill. And we have to be very serious about it. Don't hide behind, I cannot do it. Don't put excuses. Try to address it and say, look, we need to understand that, for instance, one thing that we have to do strongly here is we need to improve the capacity of the union leaders. I need to sit with very responsible people with knowledge in front of me. We need to discuss very important things. This capacity building is a problem. So we have to put it like that. Say, yes, we need to have strong unions. We need to have everything in here, but we also need to have the right people to sit in front of me, right? I cannot discuss with some people that don't have enough knowledge just to understand what can we do and how can we negotiate things. But what I cannot say is no to the unions.
Okay. Another question is that the idea of bringing diversification in the export sector, that we are always depending on one particular product. But if I ask you that what kind of sector, what are the sectors or the products or the services have a good potential in the European market, what would be those be, and what is your suggestion that we should work on?
One of the good news that I can share with you is that we are planning to do a European Business Forum. We want to bring more investment. One of my goals now is to brand Bangladesh, because one of the things that we need to understand as a must, it's not an option again, a must is to diversify the economy. There is no country in the world that can rely only on one sector. And basically, we only have one sector known in Bangladesh that outside say, oh, Bangladesh is always connected to the RMG. But we have other sectors like the pharmaceutical sector that can send a strong. I am really very proud of what the pharmaceutical sector of Bangladesh has done, because they have been able to approve medicines in Europe and in America, which means you have to have very high standards. You don't get a medicine approved in Europe or in America if your standards of production, everything is there. So that means they have reached that. That means that we can go beyond RMG, beyond cheap products. We can associate Bangladesh to having other capacities in other sectors. We are now analyzing these sectors, because if we want to promote Bangladesh and we want to bring investors in here, we need to also tell them which other sectors out of the RMG. So we are thinking on the leather sector, we are thinking on the agro-processing sector, We are also thinking on the pharmaceutical, obviously, as well. We're talking about maybe semiconductors, lighting, small lighting fittings and small plastic as well. But I like to, there is a kind of a, we are going through this study now to make sure that, but I want to be focusing, and I want to tell, I'm telling everybody, I don't want to bring liaison offices in here, representative office. I want to bring manufacturing hubs. We need to create jobs.
Yes, definitely.
That is important.
We're going to have another break, and after that, we'll be asking you rapid-fire questions from the young people, and then we'll be having answers for some more big questions as well. দর্শক, আমরা দি বিজনেসের আয়োজন দেখছেন, ইউরোপ চেয়ারপারসনের সাথে আবারও ফিরবো খুব দ্রুত, আমাদের সাথে থাকুন। আবার স্বাগত, আপনারা দেখছেন দ্য বিজনেস। আমাদের সাথে স্টুডিওতে আছেন ইউরোপ চেয়ারপারসন নুরিয়া লোপেজ। As I was asking about the rapid fire question, that is actually sent by the young audience of ours who, when they heard that you are coming to the show, they have sent us some questions and we have reviewed those and made it into 10 questions. So I'm going to ask the first question. The first one will be, they want to know what are the 3 things you like about Bangladesh the most?
I like the people. Spanish people and Bangladeshi people were very much alike. So for me, when I come to Bangladesh, it was like being home. We are family-oriented people. We are rowdy. We love to be outside, and we like to engage each other. Everybody opens the house. Quickly come to my house. I love that. I love the closeness of that. I also like they're hard workers, and I also like because they're emotional, which could be the best and the worst part of the Bangladeshi, like in the Spanish as well. Very emotional. They take first the decision they take with emotions, and then they think, they cool down and come back. But I love it's very easy for me to engage with them. That's why I'm happy here. Okay,
second question. A sector in Bangladesh do you believe European investors are still underestimating the most?
Probably the ICT. We still have a lot of potential, but we have to prove it. And I still don't know. I'm trying to analyze how to do it because all of our young generation are really very focusing on this sector as well. So we have to try to see how can we make it booming as well.
Okay, third question. One skill that is hard to find in Bangladesh?
To follow up systems. Everybody likes to break the systems. You try to implement a system, everybody likes to bypass and come back to the old things. We need to concentrate more in keeping systems.
Okay, fair enough. Fourth question. What matters more for investors entering Bangladesh today, regulatory clarity or infrastructure readiness?
Complicated question because both are extremely important. But for me, sometimes even I think that infrastructure is coming.
You can answer both, not a problem.
I think both of them are so important. I cannot separate both of them.
Yeah. Fifth question. If I ask you about the idea of remote work, is it a trend or just a temporary thing?
It's quite complicated. I wish that this could be a trend that everybody can do. But this is also not always is working. You are seeing that sometimes people respond properly and they do, and they are responsible, sometimes no. So it's complicated. I also believe that it's better to, but maybe a combination of both, that you can make 1 or 2 days remote and then you can also attend. Working remote also means you have to be very, very, very organized as well. Otherwise,
just supplementing, how's the situation regarding this in Europe? Are they all?
I think we're coming back to. We prefer. I still believe that we prefer it. But don't forget that I am not much in Europe. I'm more Bangladeshi than European right now.
I know. The sixth question: what is your mantra when a tough trade negotiation hits a deadlock?
Patient, and and you need to. I always believe if we have to do something, we have to keep pushing and opening up and trying to make it. We have to arrive to a goal. We have to be humble sometimes, and it's a matter of reaching to reach an agreement. You cannot just stay and be very strong in your position. No one is fully right all the time.
Okay, next question. India or Vietnam, who possesses a bigger challenges to Bangladesh in European markets right now?
Wow, both of them. Both of them because Vietnam in a way, but probably for me, sometime, maybe now India will have even some stronger competition with Bangladesh because we are, I mean, Vietnam is very focused in some items that we don't do, but India can be in the same items we do. So India has more capacity to harm Bangladesh than Vietnam, I think.
Okay, the next question is the eighth one. Would you rather prioritize speed over perfection or perfection over speed?
I mean, there is no point to get the speed to have something very bad. Speed is important because that means efficiency and then it has competitiveness. But you need to do things in a perfect, as much perfect way.
Okay, ninth question. What does success mean to you?
That you are happy with yourself, that's number one. Success is a combination of do things properly, but you have to be happy with what you do as well. And you need to be also, your ethics are part of your success as well. I will not like to be a successful person if I am not a good person as well. And I also teach my son to do that.
Okay, this is going to be the last question of the rapid fire round. It is a hypothetical situation as well. If shipping routes to Europe are disrupted for several weeks, how do you protect your business commitments?
Here in Bangladesh?
Here in Bangladesh, yes.
If we cannot...
That's a nightmare.
If that is the question, that's a nightmare. Because, you know, this comes also with your reputation. This is not an easy question that you can answer in 2 seconds. Because, you know, if you are disrupting your exports and that you are in the middle of... So we need to negotiate how to do it again, but, you know, it's complicated because my prestige is involved. I am giving I'm buying from someone, which I have to sell someone. If I am stuck in here, so how can I survive? Negotiating and keeping commitments. You cannot just, if it's your responsibility, you can get extensions, you can renegotiate, but you cannot wash your hands of the commitments you have. And you can also force your customers that they cannot also, whatever happens in the world is not in my hands. I am responsible when I do something wrong, but whatever happens in the world nowadays is not my responsibility. So I hope that my customers, it's very important to select your customers also. Your business is good when the full circle is, your supply chain is good, but your customers are also good. And we have to be all together. So
Great.
it's going to be a difficult thing.
Yeah, but the commitment is important. I like the idea about it. We are done with the rapid fire questions. I think the young generation who are asking this question, they got their answers, and now we are going into the big questions as well. Like they are actually asking the young Air Force who are actually entering the job market right now. They want to know whether they are ready enough to, to meet the standard of the European companies here in Bangladesh, and if not, what more they can do.
It's not about just, I know that the young generations wants to, and I believe, that's why I believe that foreign direct investment will be very important to have in Bangladesh, because automatically your standards will rise. There has to be more training. I mean, it's true that it's very difficult to get the right people sometimes in the higher positions, but Bangladeshi people are very fast to learn, and in the right environment you need to understand that when you come to here you also have to give some time for training and getting them ready too. But as I say to you, in the pharmaceutical company we have already proved that we can have higher standards, which means people adapt very quickly and we can just try. But we also have to analyze, we want to bring this, so in advance we have to prepare that. We want to bring the even pharmaceutical sector. So what kind of training we have to do to the people? So when the pharmaceutical companies ask for manpower, they are ready already. I mean, it's better to advance this. It has to be a kind of a linkage between the private sector, the students and the universities, that we are giving the right training for the right positions we are going to be needing in the economy. Just imagine that everybody wants to do philosophy. We don't need to train philosophy. We need to train maybe ICT, or we need to train in, I don't know, in biochemicals or whatever it is. Let's do the training in the right sectors that will be moving in Bangladesh.
This is going to be the last question. How do you see the EU-Bangladesh trade relation in next 10 years?
I hope that we can get an FTA. I hope that we can keep the relation. We have been good partners, but it's true that the partners that we have been partners from the donor part to the recipient of a LDC country that was getting the support from the, and it has been very transparent and very good. I don't think that anyone can complain in the way European Union has been supporting Bangladesh. So I do also, I expect that we are now moving into a win-to-win situation, but I also believe that the development of Bangladesh, if it is coming along with European companies, will be much better. You will be moving in the right sustainable direction, you know, in the right, with the right environment. Development is not always achieved in the same way. You can be very, it could be a very traumatic way of just, you need to develop with consistency, with the environmental issues, so we don't have to then work out later on or undo whatever you are doing to grow very fast. Let's do it. And European companies will bring the standards since the beginning. So you will be benefited of all these European standards, and then your reputation will be strong. This is coming linking to what we discussed about FTA. When I was in India looking into this FTA that they signed, I was asking the private sector that was there, the European private sector, why did you come to India? And everybody was talking, the FTA gives you prestige, gives you trust from the investors. So that's why all these things, FTA with Europe, bringing more European investment in here, will be something really good. And I'm fighting for that. Europe-Cham is just going to be doing that, advocating to create this ecosystem that will make Bangladesh a real manufacturing hub, and European companies will be focusing on it.
We really hope that. And with this, we will be ending the show. Thank you very much for giving us time in Jamuna Television.
Thank you very much.
দর্শক, ইউরোপের সাথে বাংলাদেশের এই বাণিজ্যের আয়োজন বা আলোচনা যখন চলে, এতক্ষণ ধরে যে আলোচনা হলো, একটি জিনিসটা আসলে অবশ্যম্ভাবী এবং এটি হচ্ছেও যে বাংলাদেশের সবচেয়ে বড় রপ্তানির বাজার এই মুহূর্তে ইউরোপীয় ইউনিয়ন, এবং সেই রপ্তানি বাজারকে ধরে রাখার জন্য এলডিসি গ্র্যাজুয়েশনের পরে আসলে কী কী কৌশল নেওয়া উচিত সেটি নিয়ে নুরিয়া লোপেজ আজকে বলছিলেন। এবং তিনি বলছিলেন যে হয়তো কিছু সময়ের জন্য এলডিসি গ্র্যাজুয়েশন পিছিয়ে দেওয়ার সুযোগ তৈরি হতে পারে, কারণ বাংলাদেশের বেশ কিছু বিপদের সময় গিয়েছে, কিন্তু তারপরেও যে প্রস্তুতির শুরু করা দরকার, যে এটির পরে আসলে আমরা কীভাবে টিকে থাকবো, সেই প্রস্তুতিটি এই মুহূর্তে খুব দ্রুত শুরু করা দরকার বলে তিনি মনে করেন। এবং একসাথে তিনি বলেছেন নতুন পণ্য এবং সেবা নিয়ে আসলে ইউরোপের সাথে বাণিজ্য করার সামনে সুযোগ তৈরি হবে, যাতে দুইটি অঞ্চল অর্থাৎ বাংলাদেশ এবং ইউরোপের 27 দেশের সাথে যাতে এক ধরনের সমতা ভিত্তিক বাজার তৈরি হয়, সেটিতে তারা বিশ্বাস করেন। যদিও সেটি সময় সাপেক্ষে, কিন্তু বাংলাদেশকে এখন থেকেই কাজ করা উচিত বলে তারা মনে করেন। আমরা মনে করি যে যেসব দেশের সাথে বাংলাদেশ বাণিজ্য করুক না কেন, যেসব অঞ্চলের সাথে বাংলাদেশ বাণিজ্য করুক না কেন, সেটি যাতে বাংলাদেশের অর্থনীতির মেরুদণ্ডকে শক্ত করে। এতক্ষণ ধরে যারা আয়োজন দেখেছেন তাদের সবাইকে অনেক ধন্যবাদ। সব অনেক ভালো থাকবেন।